You found the Stealth Podcast. Tonight, we'll travel through dark and lonely stories. Where in the world are you watching from? What time is it there? Subscribe and leave your like to support us. Let's begin. I never thought my dream of the nomadic lifestyle would turn into such a nightmare. My name's Nathan Prescott, 27 years old, originally from Portland, where I'd given up my apartment and most of my possessions 6 months ago. The converted Sprinter van had become my home, my sanctuary, and my ticket to freedom. I'd spent weeks customizing it, building a platform bed, installing solar panels, and creating a compact kitchen space that made me feel like I had everything I needed. After exploring the Pacific Northwest, I'd finally saved enough to ship my van to Hawaii, something I'd been fantasizing about since starting this journey. The Big Island was supposed to be the crown jewel of my travels. I'd pictured myself waking up to ocean views, hiking volcanic landscapes, and meeting fellow free spirits. What I didn't picture was the terror that would unfold on what seemed like an ordinary night. The ferry ride to the island had been smooth, and my first few days exploring the Kona coast were everything I'd hoped for. I'd met a couple, Leilani and Marcus, at a local farmer's market who were also living the van life. They'd been island hopping for nearly a year and knew all the best spots to park overnight without hassle. They seemed friendly enough, though something about Marcus's intense stare made me slightly uncomfortable. "You definitely want to avoid the rangers," Leilani had explained as we shared some local pineapple. "Most places crack down on overnight parking, but we know some spots they never check." Her smile was warm, but her eyes darted around as she spoke, like she was constantly on alert. I spent the day driving along the coast, stopping at beaches where the water was so clear I could see tropical fish darting between my legs. The humid air clung to my skin as I hiked to a waterfall Leilani had recommended. It was paradise, exactly what I'd imagined when planning this trip, but as the sun began to set, tension crept into my shoulders. I needed to find somewhere to sleep. Following the hand-drawn map Leilani had sketched for me, I turned down a narrow dirt road that wound through dense vegetation. The thick canopy blocked what remained of the daylight, plunging my van into premature darkness. My headlights cut through the gloom, illuminating the twisted forms of banyan trees that seemed to reach for my vehicle as I passed. Despite the tropical heat, a chill ran down my spine. The road opened to a small clearing where I spotted another van already parked. I recognized it as belonging to a guy named Kai who I'd briefly met at the same market. He'd seemed friendly enough, though he kept mostly to himself. His van lights were on, casting a warm glow through the curtains. I parked about 20 yards away, giving us both privacy, and began my nightly routine of securing my space and preparing a simple dinner. As I boiled water for my freeze-dried meal, I noticed movement at the edge of the clearing. Hawaii's wildlife was new to me, so I wasn't immediately alarmed. Probably just a wild pig or some exotic bird. But when I heard whispering, distinct human voices that seemed to be circling the perimeter of the clearing, my heart began to race. I turned off my portable stove and peered through my window, suddenly aware of how vulnerable I was in this remote location. The whispering continued, multiple voices now, impossible to make out what they were saying. I reached for my phone. No service. Of course, Leilani had mentioned this spot was off the grid, which had sounded appealing a few hours ago. Now it felt like a terrible mistake. I glanced toward Kai's van, expecting to see him emerge to investigate the strange sounds. But his vehicle remained still, the lights now off. I debated my options: start the engine and leave, potentially drawing attention to myself, or stay quiet and hope whoever was out there would move on. The decision was made for me when I heard a sharp rap on my passenger window. I jumped, knocking over my camping mug, hot water spilling across my makeshift table. Through the glass, I could make out a face. Not Kai, not anyone I recognized, just the silhouette of a man wearing what looked like a hood. "Can I help you?" I called out, trying to keep my voice steady while reaching for the pepper spray I kept beside my driver's seat. The figure didn't respond, but tapped the window again, more insistently this time. That's when I noticed he was wearing what appeared to be a traditional Hawaiian mask, carved wood with exaggerated features that looked almost demonic in the dim light. My instincts screamed danger. I scrambled to the driver's seat, hands shaking as I fumbled for my keys. Before I could start the engine, another masked figure appeared at my driver's side window, this one taller, broader-shouldered. More figures emerged from the vegetation, all wearing similar masks, forming a loose circle around my van. I counted 6 of them, standing perfectly still, just watching. Panic rising in my throat, I started the engine. The headlights illuminated the clearing, and I could see Kai's van door hanging open, the interior dark and empty. Had he fled? Or had these people already gotten to him? I didn't want to find out. I threw the van into reverse, prepared to back up over anything or anyone in my way, when the taller masked figure stepped directly behind my vehicle. The figure raised something above its head, a large branch or perhaps a club, and brought it down hard on my back window. The safety glass spiderwebbed but held. My heart hammered against my ribs as I slammed the accelerator, the van lurching backward. I heard a thud and felt the sickening bump as I hit something, but I didn't stop to check what or who it was. Tires spinning in the soft dirt, I maneuvered around the other figures and back onto the narrow access road. The darkness seemed even more oppressive now, the twisted trees forming a tunnel that threatened to swallow my van whole. In my rearview mirror, I could see the masked figures running after me, moving with disturbing speed through the underbrush. Some took shortcuts through the dense vegetation, trying to head me off. My hands were slick with sweat on the steering wheel as I navigated the winding road, driving faster than was safe on the unfamiliar terrain. The van bounced violently over roots and rocks, equipment crashing down from my shelves. I had no idea where this road led or how far it was to the main highway. All I knew was that I needed to put distance between myself and those masks. Then, without warning, my headlights illuminated a fallen tree blocking the entire width of the narrow road. I slammed on the brakes, the van skidding in the loose soil. The tree was massive, its trunk as thick as a man's waist, deliberately placed across the road. This was no accident. My stomach dropped as I realized this had been planned. The masked figures had herded me exactly where they wanted me to go. Through my rear window, I could see their silhouettes approaching, dark shapes moving steadily closer. I was trapped. With the engine still running, I frantically assessed my options. The vegetation was too thick to drive around the tree, and my van wasn't built for that kind of off-roading anyway. I could abandon the vehicle and run, but where to? I didn't know these woods, and they clearly did. As the first of the masked figures emerged from the darkness behind me, I made a split-second decision: fight. I grabbed my heavy-duty flashlight in one hand, pepper spray in the other, and slipped out the driver's side door. If I could just make it around the tree on foot, maybe I could lose them in the darkness and circle back to the main road. I hadn't even taken 3 steps when rough hands grabbed me from behind, spinning me around to face what would become my tormentors. Howley shouldn't be here. A voice hissed from behind one of the masks. The carved wooden face twisted into a grotesque grimace in the beam of my dropped flashlight. This land is Kapu. I didn't understand the term, but the menace in his voice made its meaning clear enough. Forbidden. I was somewhere I shouldn't be. I was just following directions. I stammered, backing away until I felt the cool metal of my van against my spine. Someone named Leilani told me I could park here for the night. I don't want any trouble. At the mention of Leilani's name, the masked figures exchanged glances. The tallest one stepped forward, removing his mask to reveal the face of Marcus, Leilani's boyfriend from the market. "Leilani sends the offerings," he said, his expression chillingly calm. "And you're right on time." That's when I noticed the dark stains on his hands and clothes. Blood, still wet, gleaming black in the meager light. Behind him, 2 figures dragged something heavy from the underbrush. My blood turned to ice when I realized it was Kai, his body limp, face battered almost beyond recognition. "What did you do to him?" I choked out, the pepper spray trembling in my hand. Before I could raise it, Marcus struck like a snake, knocking it away and pinning me against the side of the van. His breath was hot on my face, smelling of something metallic and rotten. "The same thing we're going to do to you," he whispered. "Feed the land. The ancient ones hunger, and we are their servants." His grip was like iron as he dragged me away from the van. I fought wildly, kicking and thrashing, managing to break free momentarily before another masked figure tackled me to the ground. They bound my wrists with rough rope that bit into my skin. The more I struggled, the tighter it became. They dragged me deeper into the forest, away from the road, away from any chance of help. The foliage grew denser, the air heavier with the scent of wet earth and something else, something putrid that made my stomach heave. We emerged in another clearing, this one clearly used for their purposes. Torches burned around a crude stone altar, their flickering light revealing dark stains that streaked its surface. What terrified me most were the bones, human bones, carefully arranged in patterns around the clearing. Not ancient remains, but recent. How many travelers had they lured here? How many vans sat abandoned on back roads or hidden under tarps, their owners never to return? As they dragged me toward the altar, survival instinct kicked in with brutal clarity. I went limp, making myself deadweight, buying precious seconds to assess my surroundings. One of the masked figures, a woman by her size, produced a ceremonial knife, its blade reflecting the torchlight as she began chanting in a language I didn't understand. Marcus and another man hoisted me onto the stone slab, the cold surface sticky against my back. I saw my opportunity when the woman with the knife approached, her attention focused on her chanting rather than securing me properly. As she raised the blade, I jackknifed it upward, head-butting her with all my strength. The knife clattered to the ground as she stumbled backward. Before the others could react, I rolled off the altar, landing hard on my shoulder, but managing to snatch the fallen knife with my bound hands. Chaos erupted. Marcus lunged for me, while the others scrambled to maintain their ritual formation. I slashed wildly with the knife, feeling it connect with flesh. Someone screamed, not me, and warm blood sprayed across my face. I didn't stop to see who I'd cut. I just ran, sawing at my bonds with the blade as I crashed through the underbrush. Behind me, their shouts turned to organized pursuit. They knew these woods, and they moved through them with practiced ease. I had only blind panic and adrenaline to guide me. Branches whipped at my face. Roots threatened to trip me with every step, but I kept moving, finally freeing my hands as I ran. The knife was still clutched in my bleeding fingers, both weapon and lifeline. I had no idea which direction led back to the road, so I aimed downhill, reasoning that it might lead to water or civilization eventually. The sounds of pursuit grew fainter, then louder as they adjusted their course. They were tracking me, calling to each other, coordinating like hunters who'd done this many times before. One voice carried above the others, Marcus, issuing commands with terrifying authority. The ground suddenly disappeared beneath my feet as I tumbled down a steep embankment, rolling through ferns and over rocks before splashing into shallow water. A stream, small but fast-moving. I followed it, half running, half crawling along its bank, hoping it would lead to safety. The water might mask my scent if they had dogs, and the current would carry away any blood dripping from my numerous cuts. My lungs burned, legs threatening to give out, when I heard the most beautiful sound imaginable: car engines. The stream had led me toward what sounded like a highway. Renewed hope gave me a final burst of energy as I scrambled up another embankment, the knife still gripped tightly in my hand. Through the trees, I could see headlights, civilization, safety. Just as I was about to break through the tree line, a hand clamped over my mouth from behind, another arm wrapping around my chest like a vice. Thought you could escape the ritual? Leilani's voice hissed in my ear, nothing like the friendly woman from the market. The ancient ones don't like to be disappointed. I didn't hesitate. I drove the knife backward, feeling it sink into soft flesh. Her grip loosened with a pained gasp. I tore free and burst onto the highway shoulder, waving my arms frantically at approaching headlights. A pickup truck swerved, horn blaring, before screeching to a halt several yards ahead. I sprinted toward it, casting terrified glances over my shoulder. The driver's window rolled down, revealing an older Hawaiian man with a deeply lined face. "Help me," I gasped, reaching for the door handle. "They're trying to kill me." The man's expression shifted from concern to something else, recognition, maybe, as his eyes flicked to something behind me. I turned to see Marcus emerging from the tree line, mask removed, looking like any normal person except for the blood staining his clothes. "This man attacked us during our cultural ceremony," Marcus called out, his voice controlled, reasonable. "He's hurt my girlfriend. She needs medical attention." He pointed back toward the woods where Leilani presumably lay injured by my hand. The truck driver looked between us, conflict evident on his face. I realized how I must appear, wild-eyed, covered in blood and dirt, clutching a ceremonial knife. "He's lying," I pleaded, my voice breaking. "They killed someone named Kai. They were going to kill me too. Some kind of sacrifice. But even as the words left my mouth, I saw doubt clouding the driver's eyes. Marcus approached slowly, hands raised in a non-threatening gesture. "Sir, my name is Marcus Kalani. My family has lived on this island for generations." This man is clearly disturbed. We were performing a traditional blessing ceremony when he became agitated and violent. He spoke with such conviction that for a moment even I questioned my own reality. Had I misunderstood something? No. The altar, the bones, Kai's broken body, those were real. The truck driver stepped out cautiously, keeping his vehicle between us. "I'm calling the police," he announced, pulling out his phone. Relief flooded through me. Once authorities arrived, they would investigate. They would find the clearing, the altar, the evidence. What happened next occurred so quickly I had no time to react. As the driver dialed, Marcus lunged not at me but at him, producing a small club from beneath his shirt and bringing it down on the man's head with sickening force. The driver crumpled instantly. In the same fluid motion, Marcus seized the dropped phone and advanced on me. I backed away, knife raised, but my exhaustion made me slow. Marcus knocked the blade from my trembling hand with a practiced strike to my wrist. "The Ancient Ones will have 2 offerings tonight," he said calmly, as if discussing the weather. "Plus whatever tourists come looking for you in the coming days." In desperation, I threw myself toward the truck, somehow managing to wrench open the door and tumble inside before Marcus could grab me. The keys were still in the ignition. I locked the doors just as Marcus slammed against the driver's side window. The glass held, but I knew it wouldn't for long. He was already looking for something heavier to break it. With shaking hands, I started the engine and floored the accelerator. The truck lurched forward, tires squealing on asphalt. In my rearview mirror, I saw Marcus growing smaller, then joined by other masked figures emerging from the forest. They made no attempt to pursue. They didn't need to. This was their island. They knew I had nowhere to go. I drove recklessly, putting as much distance as possible between myself and that terrible place. My mind raced through options: police station, hospital, airport, anywhere with people and security. But a new, horrible thought formed. What if Marcus hadn't been lying about his family living here for generations? What if they had connections throughout the island? Who could I trust? The truck's gas gauge showed nearly empty as I pulled into a well-lit gas station on the outskirts of Hilo. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I dialed 911 on the truck's built-in system. When the operator answered, words poured out of me in a barely coherent stream. The clearing, the masks, the altar, the attack. The calm voice on the other end assured me officers were being dispatched to my location. As I waited, huddled in the locked truck, headlights appeared in the distance. Relief washed over me, thinking it was the police. Then the vehicle slowed, 3 of them, and I recognized Leilani in the passenger seat of the lead car, her shoulder bandaged but her expression coldly determined. Behind her, faces I recognized from the market, from shops, from the boat dock. Ordinary people by day, something else by night. I had just enough time to take a photo with the truck owner's phone and send it to the 911 dispatcher before they surrounded the vehicle. As they broke the windows and dragged me out, I understood my deadly mistake. Believing I could ever escape an island where the ancient horrors had modern servants in every town, in every profession. My van would join the others, hidden away or disposed of. My family would receive reports of a tourist gone missing while swimming, another tragedy in paradise. And somewhere in a clearing deep in the forest, my bones would join the others, arranged in patterns to honor hungry gods that had never left this island. My name is Rachel Winters, 32 years old, born and raised in Chicago where the concrete jungle had been my home until 8 months ago. I traded my cramped apartment and soul-crushing marketing job for a retrofitted Ford Transit and the open road. The van conversion had cost nearly all my savings. Custom cabinets, a compact bathroom with shower, solar panels on the roof, and a surprisingly comfortable full-size bed. It was tiny but efficient, and more importantly, it was freedom. After exploring most of the mainland, I'd made the impulsive decision to ship my van to Hawaii. The Big Island beckoned with its diverse landscapes, from lush rainforests to active volcanoes. I figured I'd spend a month exploring before moving on to Maui. The ferry crossing had been rough, my poor transit rocking with every wave. But the moment I drove off onto Hawaiian soil, I knew the seasickness had been worth it. My first week was spent on the touristy Kona side, parking at designated campgrounds and paying the exorbitant fees that came with them. It was beautiful, but felt sanitized somehow, too clean and regulated for the authentic experience I craved. That's when I met Akela at a local coffee shop, her weathered skin and bright eyes hinting at a lifetime of island adventures. "You're paying how much to park that thing?" She'd laughed when I mentioned the campground fees. "Honey, you're doing Hawaii all wrong." She leaned in conspiratorially, her gray dreadlocks brushing the table between us. "I know some spots where you can experience the real Hawaii. Places tourists never see." Something in her tone should have warned me, but instead, I felt a thrill of excitement. Akela drew me a crude map on a napkin, pointing out several locations along the less developed eastern coast. "This spot here," she tapped an area near the southern tip of the island, "is where the old spirits are strongest. You'll feel things there you've never felt before." She winked as if sharing a special secret. I thanked her profusely, folding the napkin carefully into my pocket. The drive to the southern point took me through increasingly remote terrain. The well-maintained highways gave way to narrower roads, then to unpaved paths barely wide enough for my van. The vegetation grew denser, the air heavier with moisture from the nearby rainforest. My cell service disappeared about an hour before I reached the spot Akela had marked, but I wasn't concerned. I had plenty of supplies and my satellite emergency beacon if things went sideways. As the sun began to set, I finally found the turnoff, an almost invisible path leading toward the coast. The transit bumped and jolted over the rough terrain, branches scraping against the sides like fingernails. I emerged into a small clearing that opened to a breathtaking view of the Pacific, waves crashing against black volcanic cliffs below. It was stunning and completely deserted, exactly what I'd been looking for. I parked facing the ocean, cracked a beer, and watched as the sun sank below the horizon in a blaze of orange and pink. The twilight that followed was brief, darkness falling quickly as it always does in the tropics. I'd just finished heating up my dinner when I noticed the first peculiar thing. There were no insects. No chirping crickets, no mosquitoes buzzing around my lights. In a tropical setting like this, the silence was distinctly unnatural. The unnatural silence made me uneasy enough to close all my windows despite the humid heat. I locked my doors too, something I rarely did when parked in remote locations. As I settled in for the night with a book, a strange vibration ran through the van, like a minor earthquake. Having experienced tremors before in California, I wasn't immediately alarmed. Hawaii was volcanic, after all, but when it happened again, stronger this time, I noticed something odd. None of the trees outside were moving. Whatever was shaking my van wasn't affecting the surrounding environment. Sleep came fitfully, interrupted by more vibrations and strange dreams filled with whispered voices in a language I couldn't understand. I woke just before dawn, drenched in sweat despite the cool morning air. Something felt off, but I couldn't put my finger on what exactly. I made coffee and stepped outside, hoping the stunning view would reset my mood. The morning light revealed something I hadn't noticed in the darkness. Stone structures partially hidden by vegetation surrounding the clearing. They weren't large, just knee-high arrangements of volcanic rocks stacked with obvious purpose. Some formed circles, others seemed to create pathways leading into the dense forest. Had I inadvertently parked in some kind of historical site? Or worse, a sacred place I shouldn't be disturbing? I approached one of the stone formations cautiously. Up close, I could see symbols carved into some of the rocks, spirals, waves, and more complex designs I didn't recognize. As I bent to examine them, a voice behind me nearly stopped my heart. "They're boundary markers. You're on the wrong side of them." I spun around to find a man standing at the edge of the clearing. He was tall and lean, dressed in hiking gear, with a machete hanging from his belt. Despite the threatening-looking blade, his expression seemed concerned rather than menacing. "I'm Devin," he said, not moving closer. "You need to move your van and get out of here before nightfall." "I don't understand," I replied, instinctively backing toward my vehicle. "What are these markers for? Is this private property?" Devin's eyes darted around the clearing, never settling in one place for long, as if watching for something. Not private property in the way you're thinking, he explained. This is a threshold area. The locals know to stay away, especially after dark. He pointed to dark stains on some of the stones that I hadn't noticed before. Those aren't natural discolorations. My mouth went dry as I realized what he was implying. Blood? But from what? Sacrifices. It sounded ridiculous as soon as I said it, but Devon's expression remained deadly serious. Something takes people who stay here too long. I've been tracking the disappearances for months. 3 hikers, a couple in a camper van, a local teenager, all vanished near these stone circles. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. I found their belongings scattered through the forest, but never any remains. I should have packed up immediately, but curiosity overrode my fear. If it's so dangerous, why are you here? I challenged. Devon pulled out his phone and showed me a photo of a young woman with his same dark eyes. My sister Maya disappeared 6 weeks ago. She was studying Hawaiian folklore at the university in Hilo, focusing on this area specifically. His voice cracked slightly. The police gave up after 2 weeks. Said she probably went swimming in rough waters. But I found her research journal half a mile from here, and her last entry mentioned these stone circles. I felt a chill despite the morning heat. I'm sorry about your sister, but why tell me instead of just calling the authorities about this place? Devon's bitter laugh told me everything before he even spoke. I've tried. Multiple reports. They send someone out who takes a quick look in daylight, finds nothing unusual, and files it away. Some of the older officers won't even come here. They know what this place is. He glanced at the sky, checking the position of the sun. You have about 10 hours before sunset. Use them to get far away from here. With that warning, Devon disappeared into the trees, following what looked like one of the stone pathways. I stood frozen for several minutes, debating what to do. Part of me wanted to dismiss his warnings as the ravings of a grieving brother, but those stone circles and the unnatural silence from the night before kept me from shrugging it off completely. I decided on a compromise. I'd explore a bit during daylight, keeping the van in sight, then leave well before dusk. After all, I had an emergency beacon and a nearly full tank of gas. What could go wrong in broad daylight? I followed one of the stone pathways into the forest, taking photos of the strange symbols carved into the rocks. The deeper I went, the more elaborate the arrangements became. Some stones were positioned to frame distant mountain peaks when viewed from certain angles. Others created shallow basins that collected rainwater, the surfaces slick with some kind of algae or moss. About a quarter mile from my van, the pathway opened into another clearing, smaller than the first. Here, the stone structures were taller, some reaching waist height, arranged in a perfect circle around what appeared to be an altar stone. The flat surface of this central stone was stained dark brown, confirming Devon's ominous suggestion about sacrifices. Ancient or recent, I couldn't tell, but my skin crawled at the sight. I was taking a close-up photo of some particularly intricate carvings when I noticed something that turned my blood to ice. Fresh footprints in the soft earth, too many to count, circling the altar. They weren't from hiking boots or shoes, but bare feet of various sizes, some small enough to belong to children. And they all pointed inward, toward the altar, as if many people had gathered here recently. A branch snapped somewhere behind me. I whirled around, half expecting to see Devon again, but the forest appeared empty. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The air had grown noticeably colder in this clearing despite the overhead sun, and that unnatural silence had returned. No birds, no insects, not even the sound of wind in the leaves. I started back toward my van, walking quickly at first, then breaking into a run as panic built in my chest. The stone pathway seemed different somehow, the markers rearranged, or perhaps my own disorientation leading me astray. What should have been a short walk back stretched into 20 minutes of increasingly frantic searching. Just as real fear began to set in, I spotted my transit through the trees, exactly where I'd left it. Relief flooded through me as I burst into the main clearing, only to freeze at the sight before me. My van's door stood wide open, items from inside scattered across the ground. Someone had been through my things. I approached cautiously, scanning the tree line for any sign of the intruders. The interior was a mess. Drawers pulled out, bedding torn apart, my clothes strewn everywhere. But nothing seemed to be missing, not even my laptop or camera equipment. This wasn't a robbery. A folded piece of paper sat prominently on my driver's seat. Yellow legal paper that definitely wasn't mine. With trembling fingers, I unfolded it to find a crude drawing of what looked like my van surrounded by stick figures with oversized heads. Below the drawing, in jagged handwriting, "Leave or become offering." I was shoving my scattered belongings back into the van when I noticed them. Dozens of small footprints in the dirt around my vehicle. The same barefoot impressions I'd seen at the altar, including those child-sized ones. But these weren't just random tracks. They formed a perfect circle around my Transit, as if many people had stood hand in hand surrounding it. My hands shook so badly, I dropped my keys twice before managing to get them into the ignition. The engine roared to life, a comforting sound in the eerie silence. I was about to slam the doors shut when movement at the forest edge caught my eye. A small figure, partially hidden behind a tree. A child, maybe 7 or 8 years old, with tangled dark hair and skin so pale it seemed almost gray in the dappled light. "Hey," I called out, concern temporarily overriding my fear. "Are you lost? Do you need help?" The child didn't respond, but stepped slightly into view. That's when I noticed the unnatural stillness of its posture and its eyes, completely black, no whites visible at all. Not a human child. I yanked my door shut and locked it as the figure took another step forward. Then another emerged from behind a different tree, and another. Within seconds, a dozen child-sized figures stood at the clearing's edge, all with the same pitch-black eyes and grayish skin. None moved like normal children. Their movements were too fluid, too synchronized, as they began to advance toward my van. I threw the Transit into reverse, tires spinning in the dirt before catching. As I began to back up, a much larger figure stepped into the clearing directly behind me. An adult-sized version of the children, at least 7 feet tall with elongated limbs and that same grayish skin. Before I could change direction, it placed its hands on my back bumper, and despite its emaciated appearance, it held my van in place as if it weighed nothing. The van's engine whined as the wheels spun uselessly, the creature's inhuman strength keeping me trapped. The childlike figures had nearly reached my doors now, their small hands pressing against the windows, leaving smears that looked suspiciously like ash. Their touch seemed to lower the temperature inside the van, frost forming on the glass beneath their palms despite the tropical heat. In desperation, I slammed the transmission into drive and floored the accelerator. The sudden change in direction caught the tall creature off guard. It stumbled, its grip loosening just enough for my tires to catch. The van lurched forward, clipping several of the smaller figures as I aimed for the narrow path leading back to the main road. I refused to look in my rearview mirror, focusing only on navigating the rough terrain ahead. The path seemed different than when I'd arrived. Narrower, with overhanging branches that hadn't been there before, scraping against my roof and sides like claws. Twice I nearly got stuck in sudden dips that I swear hadn't existed yesterday. It was as if the land itself was trying to prevent my escape. I'd gone perhaps half a mile when my front tire hit something solid, a sickening crunch followed by the unmistakable hiss of air. Blown tire. Under normal circumstances, I'd have stopped to change it, but one glance out my side mirror showed the gray figures emerging from the forest behind me, moving with that unnatural smoothness. I pressed on, the heavy thump-thump-thump of the flat tire joining the sound of my pounding heart. The path took a sharp turn, and I nearly missed it, overcorrecting at the last second. The van tilted precariously, 2 wheels briefly leaving the ground before slamming back down. The impact sent pain shooting through my teeth as I bit down on my tongue. The metallic taste of blood filled my mouth as I fought to keep control of the vehicle. Around another bend, the path ahead was blocked by a massive fallen tree that hadn't been there when I drove in. I slammed on the brakes, the van sliding on the loose dirt before coming to a stop just short of the trunk. It was too large to drive over, too thick to break through, and the dense vegetation on either side made going around impossible. I was trapped. The creatures would reach me within minutes. I grabbed my emergency pack, water, first aid kit, flashlight, satellite beacon, and bolted from the van. Instead of following the path where they would easily track me, I plunged into the forest, pushing through dense undergrowth, branches whipping at my face and arms. I ran until my lungs burned, then forced myself to keep going. The logical part of my brain tried to make sense of what I'd seen. Some kind of cult in costume? Local pranksters scaring off tourists? But those black eyes and inhumane strength couldn't be faked. And how had they changed the path, moved trees, created obstacles that weren't there before? A steep ravine appeared suddenly before me, too wide to jump across. I skidded to a stop at the edge, loose stones tumbling into the darkness below. The sound of pursuit was closing in, not crashing through underbrush as humans would, but a smooth, silent movement that was somehow more terrifying. I had no choice but to follow the ravine's edge, hoping it would lead to a crossing point. The narrow game trail along the ravine twisted through increasingly dense forest. The canopy overhead had grown so thick that little sunlight penetrated, plunging me into premature twilight. I activated my flashlight, its beam cutting through shadows that seemed to move independently of the trees casting them. I nearly missed seeing Devin until I was almost upon him. He sat propped against a tree trunk, his hiking gear torn and bloody, the machete still clutched in his lifeless hand. His eyes were open, staring sightlessly at the canopy above, but the true horror was his chest, a gaping cavity where his heart should have been, the edges too clean to have been made by any animal. A rhythmic thumping sound drew my attention to a nearby stone arrangement similar to the altar I'd found earlier. On its surface, impossibly, lay a still beating heart. Devin's heart. The organ contracted and relaxed in the open air, each pulse causing a vibration I could feel through the ground, just like the strange tremors that had shaken my van the night before. Bile rose in my throat as I stumbled backward, nearly falling into the ravine. The satellite beacon. I fumbled for it in my pack, finally extracting the device with trembling hands. One button press would send my location to emergency services. It wouldn't bring help immediately, but at least someone would know where to look for me. Before I could activate it, a child-sized hand shot out from behind a tree, snatching the beacon from my grasp. The small gray figure regarded the device curiously before crushing it between its fingers as if it were made of paper rather than hardened plastic and metal. Its black eyes fixed on me as more figures emerged from the surrounding forest, cutting off all escape routes except the ravine behind me. The creatures advanced slowly, forming a semicircle that pushed me closer to the ravine edge. I glanced down. A fall would likely be fatal, the bottom lost in shadow. Was a quick death better than whatever these things had planned? The memory of Devin's extracted heart made my decision clear. I'd take my chances with the fall. Just as I tensed to jump, a shout rang through the forest. "Get down!" I dropped instinctively as something whizzed over my head. A flaming arrow that struck the nearest gray figure in the chest. The creature let out an inhuman shriek, its body igniting like dry tinder. More flaming arrows followed, finding targets among the stunned creatures. "This way," a woman's voice called from across the ravine. Through the chaos of flames and smoke, I spotted her. Athletic build, dark hair tied back, a compound bow in her hands. Next to her stood a weathered Hawaiian man holding a rope. "Jump. We'll catch you." The ravine was at least 15 feet across, an impossible distance. But with the gray creatures recovering from the surprise attack, I had no choice. I backed up a few steps, took a running start, and hurled myself into the void. For a sickening moment, I was airborne, certain I'd miscalculated. Then the rope snaked around my outstretched arm, pulled tight by the man's strong hands. I slammed into the ravine wall, pain exploding through my shoulder, but held on as they hauled me up. "Move," the woman commanded once I was on solid ground. She fired 2 more flaming arrows to cover our retreat, then slung her bow over her shoulder. "They won't cross running water," she explained as we ran toward the sound of a stream. "We'll be safe on the other side, temporarily." We splashed across a fast-moving stream and continued running until we reached a small cabin hidden among the trees. Once inside, the man barricaded the door while the woman checked the windows. Only when she was satisfied did she turn to me. "I'm Maya," she said, extending her hand. "Devin's sister. And this is Kikoa, who's been helping me." The name hit me like a physical blow. Devin had said his sister was missing. Yet here she stood, very much alive and apparently fighting these creatures. "But Devin said you disappeared," I stammered. "He was looking for you." I couldn't bring myself to describe what I'd seen. Maya's face fell. "We got separated 2 weeks ago. I was hoping he'd made it out." She exchanged a grim look with Kikoa. "Those things, the Nightwalkers, they use fresh hearts for their rituals. The taking of a heart strengthens their connection to this world. What are they? I asked, accepting the water bottle Kikoa offered. My hands were still shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. Not what, but who, Kikoa corrected. They were once human, followers of an ancient cult that worshipped entities from beyond the stars. Their rituals transformed them, trapping them between worlds. Now they seek to fully manifest by collecting hearts during celestial alignments. Like tonight, Maya added grimly. Full lunar eclipse. They'll be at their strongest. She began gathering supplies. More arrows, a container of accelerant, matches. We need to destroy the central altar before midnight. It's their anchor to this realm. Wait, I protested. Shouldn't we just get out of here? Call for help. The thought of going back toward those things made my stomach turn. Kikoa shook his head. They've marked you. They'll follow anywhere on the island. And they've already taken your friend's heart. Their power is growing. By tomorrow, they could extend their reach beyond these woods. He wasn't my friend, I said quietly. I just met him today. He tried to warn me. The guilt was overwhelming. If I'd just listened to Devin and left immediately, he might still be alive. Then honor his warning now, Maya said firmly. Help us end this. The three of us might have a chance if we move quickly. The plan was desperate but simple. Return to the main altar I'd seen earlier, douse it with accelerant, and destroy it with fire. Maya's research had revealed that the stone circle functioned as a doorway between worlds. Breaking it during the eclipse, when the connection was strongest, might seal the breach permanently. We waited until dusk, then moved through the forest with agonizing slowness. Kikoa led the way, his knowledge of the land guiding us along hidden paths the creatures rarely patrolled. Every shadow seemed to hide watching eyes, every rustle of leaves a potential threat. The temperature dropped steadily as night fell, our breath becoming visible in the increasingly frigid air, another sign of the Nightwalker's strengthening presence. The stone circle came into view just as the eclipse began, the moon's light dimming as Earth's shadow crept across its surface. The clearing was empty, but dozens of freshly placed candles surrounded the altar, their flames unnaturally still in the night air. At the center lay Devin's heart, still somehow beating, now placed inside a carved stone bowl. They're gathering for the final ritual, Kikoa whispered. We have minutes, not hours. We moved quickly, Maya covering us with her bow while Kikoa and I approached the altar. I poured accelerant over the stones as he placed small cloth bundles at strategic points, herbs and minerals that would amplify the fire's effect, he'd explained. Just as I emptied the container, a bone-chilling wail rose from the surrounding forest. They know we're here, Maya hissed, knocking a flaming arrow. Light it now. I struck a match, but before I could drop it, an invisible force knocked me backward. The tall gray figure materialized beside the altar, its black eyes reflecting the candle flames. More creatures emerged from the trees, dozens of them, including the child-sized ones. Among them walked newer converts, their transformations incomplete, grayish patches spreading across otherwise human skin, their eyes only partially blackened. With horror, I recognized one of them, Akela, the woman who'd given me the map to this place. She smiled at my recognition, her teeth filed to points. We needed fresh hearts, she said conversationally. You tourists are so easy to lure, always looking for the authentic experience. She gestured to the partially transformed figures. Some join us willingly. Others provide different services. Kikoa launched himself at the tall creature, wielding a knife inscribed with symbols similar to those on the stones. Maya loosed arrow after arrow, creating a barrier of flame between us and the advancing horde. I scrambled for the fallen matches, finally grabbing one and striking it against the box. Time seemed to slow as I lunged toward the altar, the lit match extended before me. Akela moved to intercept, her partially transformed body faster than any human could be. Her clawed hand slashed across my arm, sending searing pain through my body, but momentum carried me forward. The match touched the accelerant-soaked altar just as the eclipse reached totality. The flames erupted with unnatural intensity, blue-white fire engulfing the stone circle. The creatures shrieked in unified agony as cracks spread across the altar stone. Devin's heart burst into flames, and with it, the connection the Nightwalkers had been building. The tall creature contorted in impossible ways, its body elongating, then collapsing in on itself, like paper being crumpled. "Run!" Maya screamed, grabbing my injured arm. Kikoa was already ahead of us, clearing a path through the disoriented creatures. We fled as reality itself seemed to bend around the burning altar, trees warping and ground rippling like water. Behind us, the Nightwalkers weren't pursuing. They were being pulled back toward the flames, their bodies disintegrating as the portal began to collapse. We didn't stop running until we reached a paved road, where an old pickup truck sat hidden under camouflage netting. As Kikoa drove us towards civilization, I watched the forest through the rear window. A column of unnaturally colored flames shot into the night sky, then imploded with a flash that briefly outshone the eclipsed moon. 3 days later, after hospital treatment for my injuries, I stood at the dock waiting for the first available ferry off the island. My van was gone. Park rangers had found it empty, reporting another tragic case of a tourist likely swept out to sea. Maya and Kikoa had disappeared as well, leaving only a note at my hospital bedside. Some places should remain untouched. Some stories shouldn't be shared. I've respected their warning, telling the authorities I got lost hiking and injured myself falling down a ravine. They seemed eager to accept this explanation, no one asking about the strange burn patterns on my wounds that don't match any normal injury. As the ferry pulls away from Hawaii, I watch the volcanic mountains recede into the distance. They look peaceful, beautiful even, their ancient secrets once again safely hidden, for now. The modern world may have forgotten the old powers, dismissed them as superstition and folklore, but I know better now. In remote places, in forgotten corners where ancient stone circles still stand, the barriers between worlds grow thin. And sometimes, what waits on the other side is hungry. My name is Julia Hernandez, 29 years old, and until 6 months ago, I was a software developer living in Seattle, drowning in deadlines and the constant gray drizzle of the Pacific Northwest. That life feels like a distant memory now. I traded my cramped apartment for a meticulously converted Dodge ProMaster van, my pride and joy with its bamboo countertops, ingeniously compact bathroom, and the most comfortable Murphy bed that folds into a workspace during the day. The freedom of the open road had been calling me for years, and when my company went fully remote, I finally answered. After exploring much of the western United States, I made an impulsive decision to ship my van to Hawaii, specifically to the Big Island. The idea of experiencing the diverse microclimates, from snow-capped mountains to lush rainforests to active volcanoes, all within a day's drive, was too tempting to resist. The shipping costs nearly broke my budget, but the moment I drove my van off the cargo ship in Hilo Harbor, breathing in the sweet tropical air mingled with volcanic mist, I knew every penny had been worth it. My first few days were spent in established campgrounds, paying ridiculous fees for basic amenities. While beautiful, they felt sterile and crowded, not the authentic Hawaiian experience I was seeking. That's when I met Maliko, a local fisherman with weathered skin and calloused hands who struck up a conversation with me at a small roadside market where I was buying fresh fruit. His easy laugh and the way his eyes crinkled at the corners immediately put me at ease. "You're paying how much to park that thing?" he asked incredulously when I mentioned the campsite fees. "Tourists always get ripped off." He leaned in conspiratorially, his voice dropping. "My family has land near Puna, on the southeastern coast. Very private, very beautiful. Perfect spot for someone who wants to experience the real Hawaii, not that packaged stuff they sell to mainlanders." I should have questioned why a stranger would offer his property to me, but his genuine smile and the promise of an authentic experience clouded my judgment. Maliko drew a detailed map on the back of a receipt, marking the unmarked dirt road that would lead to his family's land. "There's an old lava field there, but beyond it is paradise, a private black sand beach that hardly anyone visits. The perfect place to park your van." He pointed to a specific spot on his crude map. "Just make sure you stay in this area and don't wander toward the old Heiau ruins, sacred temple," he explained, noting my confused expression. "Some places aren't meant for outsiders, yeah? Just respect the boundaries and you'll have the most beautiful spot on the island all to yourself." I followed his directions the next day, my van carefully navigating the increasingly narrow and overgrown road that wound through dense tropical vegetation. The humidity was oppressive, beads of sweat trickling down my spine despite the open windows. As Maliko had described, the road eventually opened to a vast expanse of black lava rock, a moonscape created by past eruptions, now partially reclaimed by pioneering ferns and small flowering plants that somehow found purchase in the volcanic terrain. Beyond the lava field, I could see the promised paradise, a crescent of black sand hugged by swaying palm trees, the deep blue Pacific stretching endlessly beyond. I parked in the flat area Maliko had indicated, positioning my van to face the ocean for the perfect sunset view. The isolation was complete. No other vehicles, no buildings, not even the distant sound of traffic. Just the rhythmic crashing of waves and occasional calls of tropical birds. I set up my portable hammock between two sturdy palms and spent the afternoon swaying in the ocean breeze, feeling like I'd discovered a secret corner of heaven. As dusk approached, I prepared a simple dinner on my propane stove, enjoying the spectacular sunset painting the sky in vibrant oranges and pinks. The transition from day to night happened quickly, as it always does in the tropics, and soon I was surrounded by darkness broken only by the brilliant canopy of stars overhead. It was then that I noticed something odd. Along the edge of the lava field, small blue flames seemed to dance among the rocks, appearing and disappearing like ghostly will-o-wisps. I told myself it must be some natural phenomenon, perhaps gases escaping from the volcanic rock, ignited by something in the atmosphere. Despite my rational explanation, a sense of unease began to creep over me as the night deepened. I slept fitfully that first night, waking frequently to strange sounds that seemed to echo across the lava field. Not quite human, not quite animal, but something in between that raised the hair on my arms. The blue flames I'd noticed earlier had multiplied, dozens of them now flickering among the jagged lava rocks like tiny sentinels. Each time I drifted back to sleep, my dreams were invaded by whispered voices speaking what sounded like Hawaiian, urgent and warning, though I couldn't understand the words. Morning brought blessed normalcy, the unsettling night feelings dispersed by cheerful sunshine and the gentle rhythm of waves. I made coffee and walked the length of the small beach, collecting unusual shells and admiring the way the black sand sparkled with tiny olivine crystals. The isolation that had seemed so perfect yesterday now felt slightly oppressive. I hadn't seen another human being since turning onto the unmarked road. My cell phone showed no service, but that wasn't unusual in remote parts of the island. I told myself the eerie feelings were just my mainland sensibilities adjusting to the wild energy of Hawaii. After breakfast, curiosity drew me toward the area Maliko had warned about, the Heiau ruins. I rationalized that just looking couldn't hurt, as long as I remained respectful and didn't disturb anything. Following a barely visible path that wound through thick vegetation beyond the lava field, I soon came upon what was clearly an ancient structure, stacked black stones forming a platform about waist-high, approximately 30 feet square. The precision of the stonework was impressive, especially considering it had likely been built centuries ago without modern tools. Around the platform stood several weathered wooden posts carved with faces that seemed to follow my movements with hollow eyes. An oppressive silence hung over the heiau. Not even the chirping of birds or rustling of leaves disturbed the stillness despite the light breeze I could feel on my skin. The air felt charged, like the heaviness before a thunderstorm. As I stood contemplating the sight from what I considered a respectful distance, a small lizard scurried across the stone platform, freezing momentarily in its center. Without warning, it began to convulse violently before going completely still, its tiny body shriveling before my eyes as if all moisture was being rapidly extracted. Within seconds, it was nothing but a desiccated husk that crumbled to dust in a gentle gust of wind. Heart pounding, I backed away from the heiau, suddenly understanding why Maliko had warned me to stay clear. Whatever spiritual energy remained in this place, it clearly wasn't welcoming to intruders. As I hastily retraced my steps toward the safety of my van, I nearly collided with an elderly Hawaiian woman who seemed to materialize from nowhere on the narrow path. Her deeply lined face registered shock, then anger at seeing me. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, her voice surprisingly powerful for her frail appearance. This is Kapu, forbidden. You should not be near the Temple of Ku. When I stammered an apology, explaining that Maliko had given me permission to camp nearby, but that I had wandered too far, her expression shifted from anger to something closer to fear. Maliko sent you here? To this place? She grabbed my arm with surprising strength, her fingers digging painfully into my flesh. When did you speak to him? What exactly did he say? Confused and increasingly frightened, I described meeting the friendly fisherman at the market the day before. With each detail I provided, the woman's face grew paler, her grip on my arm tightening. That cannot be, she whispered, finally releasing me. My grandson Maliko has been dead for 3 years. He drowned in these very waters. She pointed toward the deceptively peaceful beach where my van was parked. Whatever led you here was not my grandson. You must leave this place immediately, before nightfall, before they realize what you've seen. I wanted to dismiss her words as the superstitious ramblings of a grief-stricken grandmother, but the genuine terror in her eyes coupled with my own unsettling experiences made that impossible. She refused to accompany me back to my van, saying she would not step foot on the beach. Instead, she pressed a small stone pendant into my palm, a crude carving of what looked like a turtle. For protection, she said simply, don't stop for anything or anyone until you're back on the main highway. And whatever you do, don't return to this place after dark. By the time I reached my van, my hands were shaking so badly, I dropped my keys twice before managing to unlock the door. Part of me wanted to leave immediately as the old woman had instructed, but the rational side of my brain argued for calm assessment. Maybe there was another explanation. Perhaps there was more than one Maliko, or the woman was confused or mentally unstable. I decided on a compromise. I would pack up leisurely, drive back to civilization before sunset, and find a proper campground for the night. Then I could process everything with a clearer head. As I began gathering my belongings that were scattered around the campsite, I noticed something disturbing: footprints in the black sand surrounding my van. They hadn't been there earlier, I was certain of it. The impressions were barefoot but oddly shaped, the toes too long and splayed wider than any human foot I'd ever seen. The pattern was bizarre too. They approached my van from the water, circled it completely, then returned to the ocean. No other tracks marred the pristine beach, not even my own from my morning walk, as if the sand had been wiped clean and only these new prints allowed to remain. My hands trembled as I hastily shoved my hammock into its storage bag, no longer concerned with proper folding or organization. The blue Hawaiian sky had suddenly clouded over, transforming from brilliant azure to ominous gray within minutes. The temperature dropped noticeably, raising goosebumps on my arms despite the lingering humidity. The ocean, which had been gentle lapping waves all morning, now crashed against the shore with increasing violence, the water taking on a strange reddish tint that couldn't be explained by disturbed sand or the changing light. I was tossing the last of my gear through the side door of my van when I noticed a figure standing at the water's edge, a man with his back to me, dressed in simple shorts and a fishing shirt. Even from behind, I recognized the distinctive slope of his shoulders and the sun-bleached baseball cap. Maliko. Relief flooded through me momentarily. Here was proof that the old woman had been confused or lying. But that relief curdled into icy fear when he slowly turned to face me. The friendly face I remembered was gone, replaced by a bloated, waterlogged visage with milky white eyes and blue-tinged skin that hung loosely on his frame as if partially dissolved by seawater. You've seen the heiau, the thing that wasn't Maliko called out, its voice garbled as if speaking through liquid. Now you belong to Ku, just like me. It took a lurching step forward, seawater pouring from its mouth with each word. Behind it, I could see more figures emerging from the churning surf. Men, women, even children, all in various states of decay, all with the same vacant white eyes and blue-gray skin. The drowned dead of this treacherous coastline, walking out of the ocean that had claimed them. Pure terror propelled me into the driver's seat of my van, hands fumbling as I jammed the key into the ignition. The engine roared to life, but as I shifted into reverse, the van refused to move. Glancing in my side mirrors, I saw why. Several of the waterlogged figures had positioned themselves behind my vehicle, their unnaturally strong hands gripping the bumper and wheel wells, anchoring it in place despite the spinning tires. More of them surrounded the van now, their bloated faces pressed against my windows, leaving trails of seawater and something darker, more viscous that streaked the glass. "We need new offerings," Maliko's corpse rasped as it approached my driver's side window. "The Heiau grows hungry. Who demands sacrifice? That's why we call suitable ones like you. Those with no connections here, no one to miss them quickly." His ruined face split into a grotesque parody of the friendly smile that had deceived me. "You're perfect, strong spirit, healthy body. Who will feed well?" He pressed a decaying hand flat against my window, the flesh squishing obscenely, water pulsing from beneath his fingernails with each movement. In desperation, I threw the van into drive and floored the accelerator, hoping to break free from the grasping hands behind me. The front wheels spun, catching briefly on the black sand before the vehicle lurched forward several feet. I heard a sickening crunch as I drove over something, or someone, but couldn't bring myself to look back. Instead, I focused on the narrow path ahead that led back to the lava field and eventually to the main road. If I could just reach the highway, surely these things couldn't follow. The van fishtailed wildly as I navigated the uneven terrain, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. I was halfway across the lava field when the ground beneath my van began to shake. Not the gentle tremor of a minor earthquake, but violent convulsions that sent blocks of volcanic rock bursting upward like projectiles, cracking my windshield and denting the roof. Through the fractured glass, I watched in horror as the seemingly solid lava field began to split open, jagged fissures spreading like lightning bolts, some belching that same eerie blue flame I'd seen the night before. My van teetered on the edge of one widening crack, the front wheels dangling momentarily over emptiness before I managed to reverse and find another route forward. The van shuddered and groaned as I pushed it beyond its limits, navigating the increasingly unstable lava field. Each time I found a path forward, another fissure would open, forcing me to swerve violently. Looking in my rearview mirror, I could see the drowned figures still pursuing, moving with unnatural speed despite their waterlogged condition. Even more terrifying, some appeared to be emerging directly from the cracks in the lava field, as if the entire landscape was connected to whatever dark power animated them. A massive jolt rocked the van as the ground gave way beneath my right rear tire, the vehicle tilting precariously. The engine whined in protest as I tried to power through, but the wheel was spinning uselessly over open space. Through my side mirror, I could see Maliko's corpse gaining ground, now only yards behind me. In desperation, I threw open my door and grabbed my emergency backpack, making a split-second decision to abandon the van. As much as it pained me to leave my home on wheels, it had become a steel coffin that would soon trap me. The heat emanating from the fissures was intense, scorching my lungs with each breath as I sprinted across the fractured terrain. My boots slipped on the glassy surface of the newer lava rock, each fall tearing skin from my palms and knees, but fear drove me forward. I clutched the stone pendant the old woman had given me, hoping against reason that it truly offered some protection. Behind me, I heard an ear-splitting crack followed by a grinding metallic scream. My van had been swallowed by one of the widening chasms, taking with it everything I owned. The edge of the lava field seemed impossibly distant, but I pushed on, my lungs burning and legs threatening to give out. Something grabbed my ankle, a hand thrust up through a narrow crack in the rock, the flesh sloughing off to reveal bone beneath. I kicked wildly, breaking free but losing my balance in the process. As I tumbled forward, my backpack snagged on a jagged protrusion, suspending me momentarily above a newly formed fissure that glowed with unnatural blue light from far below. Hanging there, the heat searing my back through my thin shirt, I could see something moving in the depths, not flames, but what appeared to be massive tentacles or roots pulsing with bioluminescent energy, reaching upward as if sensing my presence above. The fissure was widening by the second, the rock edge crumbling where my backpack was caught. I had seconds to make a choice: remain attached to the pack and likely fall to whatever horror lurked below, or abandon it and keep running. With a silent apology to my future self, I slipped out of the straps, feeling the comforting weight of the old woman's pendant still pressed against my chest beneath my shirt. Free of the backpack, I scrambled forward on hands and knees until the ground felt stable enough to stand again. The main road was visible now, perhaps a quarter-mile ahead. Behind me, the drowned ones had slowed at the edge of the largest fissure, seeming reluctant to approach the pulsing blue energy below. Maliko's corpse raised an arm, pointing at me with grim purpose, its mouth moving in what appeared to be an incantation. The other figures fanned out, clearly intending to circle around the obstacles to continue their pursuit. A ear-splitting roar erupted from the largest fissure, and something massive began to emerge, a writhing column of what looked like volcanic rock animated by the same blue energy I'd seen pulsing below. It took a vaguely humanoid form, but towering at least 30 feet high. Its head, nearly featureless except for a gaping maw filled with crystalline teeth that refracted the blue light in hypnotic patterns. The drowned ones prostrated themselves before it, pressing their decaying faces to the lava rock in supplication. "Who rises?" The voice came from all the drowned ones simultaneously, a chorus of waterlogged vocal cords creating an inhuman harmony that seemed to vibrate the air itself. "The sacrifice will be completed." The massive entity began moving toward me, each step causing tremors that threatened to split the ground further. Despite its size, it moved with disturbing speed, covering ground that would take me minutes to traverse in mere seconds. With a final surge of adrenaline, I sprinted for the road, no longer feeling the cuts and burns that covered my body. The pendant around my neck grew uncomfortably hot, seemingly pulsing in opposition to the blue energy behind me. Just as I reached the edge of the lava field, where dirt and vegetation began to reclaim the volcanic rock, a shadow fell over me. The entity had closed the distance, its massive form blocking out the sun as it reached for me with an appendage that resembled a hand only in the most abstract sense. The stone pendant around my neck suddenly burst into blinding white light, creating a barrier between me and the massive entity's reaching hand. The creature recoiled with a sound like volcanic rock grinding against itself, the blue energy within its form flickering erratically. I didn't wait to see what would happen next. I ran across the boundary where lava field met vegetation and didn't slow until I reached the dirt road. Looking back, I saw something that defied explanation. The monstrous entity and all the drowned ones had stopped precisely at the edge of the lava field, unable or unwilling to cross onto the regular earth. The old woman's pendant had saved me, but its light was fading rapidly, the power within it clearly meant for a single use. The massive entity, Ku, they had called it, raised what passed for its head toward the sky and emitted a sound so profound it seemed to vibrate my very bones. The clouds above began to swirl, darkening rapidly as an unnatural storm formed directly over the lava field. The drowned ones began chanting again, their voices carrying to me despite the distance, words in Hawaiian that seemed to make the air itself shudder with malevolent power. I ran along the dirt road, praying my memory of the route back to the highway was accurate. The storm above intensified with unnatural speed, lightning striking the lava field in precise patterns that matched the configuration of the heiau I'd foolishly visited. Each strike illuminated the massive entity in stark relief, revealing more details of its horrific form. A body composed of countless smaller bodies fused together, human shapes trapped within the volcanic rock as if they'd been absorbed into its mass. With sickening clarity, I realized I was seeing the fate of previous offerings to this ancient deity. The rain began, but what fell from the sky wasn't water. It was a thick, red liquid that steamed where it hit the ground. Blood rain. It soaked through my clothes in seconds, burning my skin like weak acid, carrying with it the unmistakable stench of decay. Through this crimson downpour, I spotted headlights in the distance, a vehicle approaching on the dirt road. Relief surged through me momentarily before caution took hold. What if this was another trap? Another Maliko sent to lure me back? As the vehicle drew closer, I concealed myself in the vegetation alongside the road, peering out cautiously. It was an old pickup truck, rusted and mud-splattered, driven by an elderly man who peered anxiously through the blood rain splattering his windshield. Behind him in the truck bed sat the same old woman who had given me the pendant, now clutching what appeared to be bundles of herbs and bottles of liquid. They were coming to help, I realized, perhaps drawn by the activation of the pendant's power. I stepped onto the road, waving frantically to catch their attention. The truck skidded to a halt beside me, and the old woman gestured urgently for me to get in the bed with her rather than the cab. As soon as I complied, she began washing the blood rain from my skin with clear water from one of her bottles, muttering what sounded like prayers or incantations. "You crossed the boundary," she said, her voice tight with controlled fear. "That's good. Ku cannot leave the old lava field. His power is anchored to the heiau and the sacrificial ground." "What is happening?" I demanded, my voice bordering on hysteria as I watched the storm intensify over the lava field, the massive entity still visible in lightning flashes, now seemingly engaged in some ritual at the center of the newly formed fissures. "What is that thing?" The old woman's face was grim as she tied protective herbs around my wrists and neck to replace the spent power of the pendant. "That is Ku, god of war and human sacrifice," she explained as the truck bounced along the increasingly muddy road. "In ancient times, my ancestors offered him human blood to gain victory in battle. When the old religion was abandoned, the priests bound him to the heiau using powerful kapu, limiting his reach to the ancient lava field. But every few years, he hungers and calls servants to lure new offerings, people who won't be missed, visitors with no connections here." Her eyes filled with tears. "Like my Maliko, who drowned investigating disappearances in that area. Now his body serves the Ancient One, luring others to their deaths." The explanation chilled me more than the blood rain ever could. "But I escaped," I said, trying to make sense of it all. "I crossed the boundary. I'm safe now, right?" The old woman and the driver exchanged a look that made my heart sink. "What aren't you telling me?" The truck had reached the paved highway now, turning away from the direction of Hilo and the more populated areas, heading instead deeper into the remote southern part of the island. "You've been marked by Ku," the driver said, his voice gruff but not unkind. "The blood rain. Once it touches you, part of the god's essence lives within you. If you go back to the mainland or even to another island, that essence goes with you, dormant at first but growing stronger. Eventually, it would possess you completely, compelling you to create a new heiau, a new anchor for Ku's power wherever you settle. The cycle would begin again, with you as the first servant luring others to their deaths." Horror washed over me as I understood the full implications. My life as I knew it was over. I could never return home, never contact my family or friends. Doing so would only spread this ancient evil beyond the boundaries that currently contained it. "So what happens now?" I asked, my voice hollow with the weight of this knowledge. The old woman took my hand in her weathered one, her touch surprisingly comforting despite everything. "You stay with us," she said simply. "We are the keepers, descendants of the priests who bound Ku centuries ago. We maintain the boundaries and care for those who have been marked but escaped actual sacrifice." As she spoke, we pulled up to a small compound of houses set deep in the rainforest, isolated from any main roads or communities. Several people emerged from the buildings, their expressions solemn but not unwelcoming. "There are others like you here. Together, we contain what cannot be destroyed." As I stepped from the truck on shaky legs, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the window. My eyes had changed, flecks of unnatural blue light swirling in their depths like tiny versions of the flames I'd seen in the lava field. The mark of Ku, visible now that I knew to look for it. I had escaped with my life, but at what cost? My van, my possessions, my former life, all gone. In their place, an existence I never would have chosen, bound to this island to prevent something ancient and malevolent from spreading beyond it. The tragic irony wasn't lost on me. I had embraced the van life seeking freedom, wanting to explore the world unfettered by permanent connections or responsibilities. Now I was more tethered than I'd ever been, my very presence a necessary containment measure for forces I barely understood. As the blood rain continued to fall on the distant lava field, and the other marked ones welcomed me with sad understanding in their similarly flecked eyes, I realized my deadly mistake. Believing that all places were mine to explore, all experiences mine to collect. Some boundaries exist for reasons beyond our comprehension, and crossing them, even in ignorance, carries consequences that no amount of freedom can overcome. The van's engine hums as I pull into a secluded spot off a dirt road on the big island of Hawaii. I'm Elena Harper, 29 years old, from Seattle, Washington. I've been living in my converted Sprinter van for 2 years, chasing freedom and new horizons. The air's thick with the scent of plumeria, and the sun's dipping below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery oranges. I've parked near a stretch of rainforest, a spot I found on a Vanlife app, supposedly safe for overnight camping. It's quiet, save for the distant crash of waves. I'm alone, but I'm used to it. Just me, my van, and my dog, Milo, a scrappy terrier mix who's snoring in the passenger seat. I step out, stretch my legs, and take a sip from my water bottle. The rainforest looms ahead, dense and dark, but I'm not worried. I've camped in remote places before, Montana, Oregon, even the Mojave. This feels like another adventure. I lock the van, double-check the solar panels, and start setting up for the night. My setup's cozy, a fold-out bed, a tiny kitchen, and string lights for ambience. Milo wakes up, tail wagging, ready for his evening walk. I grab his leash, my flashlight, and a granola bar, figuring we'll stretch our legs before dinner. The trail near the parking spot is narrow, winding through ferns and towering trees. It's peaceful, but I notice a few things that feel off. There's a rusted "No Trespassing" sign half buried in the dirt, which I shrug off. Vanlife apps often list spots on private land that locals don't mind. Still, it's weird. I shake it off and keep walking, Milo tugging at the leash. The air's humid, sticking to my skin, and I'm already regretting not bringing bug spray. I'm not here to overthink. I'm here to live simply, to breathe. Back at the van, I cook a quick meal, ramen with some dehydrated veggies. I scroll through my phone, checking messages from my friend Casey, who's also a vanlifer. She's in California, raving about a beach spot. I text her about Hawaii, how it's gorgeous but humid as hell. She replies with a laughing emoji, telling me to watch out for creepy island vibes. I chuckle, but her words linger. Islands can feel isolating, especially at night. I push the thought away and focus on my dinner, the noodles steaming in my bowl. Milo's curled up on the bed, and I'm feeling settled. I've got a routine: eat, journal, maybe read a bit before sleep. Tonight, I jot down thoughts about the rainforest, how it feels alive, almost watchful. It's a silly thought, but I write it anyway. The van's my sanctuary, every inch customized, wood paneling, a skylight, even a tiny shower. I built this life to escape the grind, to find peace. But as I glance out the window, the darkness feels heavier than usual, like it's pressing against the glass. I decide to call it an early night. I pull the curtains shut, double-check the locks, and climb into bed. Milo snuggles close, his warmth comforting. The rainforest is silent now, no birds, no wind. It's eerie, but I tell myself it's just the island's vibe. I've camped in creepy places before and survived. Still, I keep my pocket knife on the bedside shelf, a habit from years on the road. You never know, right? I close my eyes, letting the gentle sway of the van lull me. Before I drift off, I hear a faint noise, a twig snapping maybe. I sit up, heart picking up speed. Milo's ears perk, but he doesn't bark. I strain to listen, but it's quiet again. Probably a bird or a mongoose, I tell myself. Hawaii's full of wildlife. I lie back down, but my pulse stays quick. The van feels too small suddenly, too exposed. I pull the blanket tighter, trying to shake the unease creeping into my bones. I'm probably just tired. Long drives do that to you, make you jumpy, paranoid. I force myself to breathe deeply, counting backward from 10. The van's locked, Milo's here, and I'm fine. But as I close my eyes again, I can't shake the feeling that something's out there, just beyond the trees. I tell myself it's nothing, but my hand stays close to the knife. The night stretches on, and I'm half asleep when another sound jolts me awake. It's not a twig this time. It's something heavier, like a footstep. My eyes snap open, and Milo's low growl fills the van. The horror of the moment sinks in, cold and sharp. Something's wrong. Milo's growl cuts through the silence, low and steady, his eyes fixed on the van's side door. My heart's hammering as I grab the pocket knife, clutching it so tight my knuckles ache. The sound outside, heavy, deliberate, lingers in my mind. It wasn't a critter. I slide out of bed, barefoot on the cold floor, and creep to the window. The curtains are drawn, but I nudge one aside, just enough to peek. The rainforest is a wall of black, the moonlight barely breaking through. Nothing moves, but the air feels charged, like the calm before a storm. I tell myself to chill. It's probably just a hiker or a local checking the area. Still, the horror of being out here, alone, gnaws at me. I flick on the interior light, dimming it to avoid attention. Milo's still tense, his fur bristling. I whisper, "Easy, boy," but my voice shakes. I need to decide, stay put or check outside. The smart move is staying locked in, but what if someone's messing with the van? I've heard stories, vandals slashing tires, thieves scoping out rigs. Last year, a Vanlifer in Oregon got his solar panels jacked. I can't afford that. I grab my flashlight, its beam cutting through the van's cozy glow, and weigh my options. Going out feels dumb, but so does sitting here like a target. I check my phone, 0 bars. Of course, the app said this spot had spotty service, but I didn't expect a total dead zone. I curse under my breath, wishing I told Casey exactly where I was parking. She'd know what to do. She's got a sixth sense for trouble. I try texting anyway, but it won't send. The isolation hits hard, a scary reminder of how far I am from help. Hilo's the closest town, maybe 20 miles, but it might as well be a continent away. I shove the phone in my pocket and focus. I need a plan, not panic. Milo's growling stops, but his ears stay perked. I listen hard, holding my breath. Nothing. Maybe it was a false alarm. I almost laugh at myself, jumping at shadows like a rookie. But then I notice something. The van's tilting slightly, like weights pressing on one side. My stomach drops. I shine the flashlight at the floor, half expecting to see something crazy, like a hand under the chassis. Nothing's there, but the tilt's real. I check the tires through the window. Hard to see, but they look fine. Maybe the ground's uneven. Yeah, that's it. I'm overthinking. I decide to stay put for now. Going outside in the dark is a horror movie move, and I'm not that dumb. I double-check the locks, slide a heavy cooler against the side door, and rig a string with a bell across the back entrance. If anyone tries to get in, I'll hear it. It's not much, but it's something. I settle back on the bed, knife in hand, and try to calm down. Milo curls up beside me, but his eyes don't leave the door. I wish I had his instincts. He knows something's off, and it's freaking me out. To distract myself, I pull out my journal, scribbling about the night. Writing usually grounds me, but my hands are shaky, and the words come out messy. I jot down the sounds, the van's tilt, Milo's reaction. It feels like evidence, like I'm documenting a crime scene. I stop, laughing nervously. Crime scene? Get a grip, Elena. But the thought sticks, disturbing and heavy. I've never felt this exposed in 2 years on the road. The van's my home, but tonight, it feels like a trap. I try to sleep, but every rustle outside spikes my pulse. Around 2 a.m., I hear it again, a faint scrape, like metal on metal, coming from the back of the van. My blood runs cold. It's not wildlife, it's too precise. I grab the flashlight and aim it at the rear window, but the beam catches only trees. I'm tempted to start the engine and bolt, but what if someone's out there, waiting? I'd be driving blind into who knows what. I hate this indecision, it's not me. I'm the one who rebuilt a van engine, who camped solo in bear country. But this feels different, scarier. I whisper to Milo, "What do we do, buddy?" He whines softly, pressing against me. I check the bell trap, still intact. No one's tried the doors, but that scraping sound replays in my head. I think about the no trespassing sign. Maybe this spot's not as safe as the app claimed. Locals could be protective, or worse, someone's using this place for something shady. I've read about drug runners in remote areas, even in Hawaii. The idea is wild, but it's not impossible. My mind's racing and I hate it. By 3 a.m., I'm wired, eyes burning from staring into the dark. The van's still tilted, and I'm starting to think it's not the ground. Something's wrong, and I can't ignore it anymore. I need to check the undercarriage at first light, but the thought of crawling under the van in this creepy-ass rainforest makes my skin crawl. The horror's building, slow and relentless, and I'm not sure how much longer I can sit still. Dawn's barely breaking, a gray haze seeping through the rainforest canopy, when I decide I can't wait any longer. The van's tilt is freaking me out, and that scraping sound from last night still echoes in my head. Milo's pacing, his nails clicking on the floor, and I'm clutching my knife like it's a lifeline. I pull on my boots, grab the flashlight, and take a deep breath. I need to check under the van. The horror of what I might find. Maybe a busted axle, or worse, something human. Makes my stomach churn, but sitting here's driving me nuts. I crack the side door, peering out. The air's damp, heavy with moss and salt. Nothing moves. Yet, I step outside, the ground soft underfoot, and crouch near the rear tire. My flashlight sweeps the undercarriage, and my heart stops. There's a metal hook, crude and rusted, lodged in the chassis. It's not part of the van. It's been jammed in, like someone tried to anchor it. The realization hits like a punch. This wasn't an accident. Someone was out here, messing with my home. The terror's real now, sharp and cold. I yank the hook free, its edges biting my palm. It's heavy, like something you'd use to drag a boat. Or something worse. I stand, scanning the trees. The rainforest feels alive, watching. Milo barks once, sharp, and I nearly drop the hook. "Shoot, buddy." I hiss, but my voice is shaky. I circle the van, checking for more damage. The tires are fine, but there's a fresh scratch along the back door, deep enough to gouge the paint. It wasn't there yesterday. My mind races. Vandals? Locals pissed about my parking spot? Or something scarier, like the drug runners I was paranoid about last night? Whatever it is, it's not random. Someone's targeting me. I climb back inside, locking the door fast. My hands are trembling as I shove the hook into a storage bin. I need to leave, now? Hilo's my best bet. Civilization, people, safety. But as I grab the keys, I hear voices. Low, muffled, coming from the trail. My blood freezes. I kill the lights and crouch by the window, peeking through a slit in the curtain. Two figures emerge from the trees, maybe 50 yards away. They're dressed in dark clothes, one carrying a duffel bag. They're not hikers. Hikers don't move like that, all stealth and purpose. The horror sinks deeper. I hold my breath, praying Milo stays quiet. He's trembling beside me, sensing my fear. The figures pause, heads turning toward the van. I can't see their faces, but one points, and my chest tightens. They know I'm here. I think about the hook, the scratch, the no trespassing sign. This spot's theirs, whatever this is. Smugglers? Poachers? My mind flashes to a news story from Oahu last year. A couple went missing near a remote beach, their car found abandoned. No bodies, no answers. I shove the thought away, but it's too late. I'm terrified. I need to start the van, but the engine's loud, and they're too close. If I move, they'll hear. I check my phone again, still no signal. Casey's probably sipping coffee in California, clueless that I'm in deep shit. I curse myself for not sticking to crowded campgrounds. Vanlife's about freedom, but I've been cocky, parking in places like this without backup. My mistake's staring me in the face, and it's disturbing as hell. I grip the knife tighter, knowing it's useless against two people. Maybe more. The figures start walking again, toward the van. My pulse is deafening. They're not rushing, which is worse. Calm, like they've done this before. I scan the van for anything to use as a weapon. My camp stove? A wrench? Pathetic. I think about barricading the door, but the cooler's already there, and it won't hold long. Milo's whining now, and I clamp a hand over his muzzle, whispering, "Please, buddy, not now." The voices get clearer, one's gruff, the other sharp, arguing about the spot. My spot, my van, my life. I'm frozen, torn between hiding and fighting. If I stay quiet, maybe they'll pass. But what if they don't? What if they're here for the van, or me? I think about the hook again, how it was lodged like a trap. Maybe they wanted me stuck, unable to leave. The idea is so scary it's paralyzing. I force myself to move, crawling to the driver's seat. I need to be ready to floor it, consequences be damned. But as I reach for the keys, something thuds against the van's side, hard enough to shake the frame. I stifle a scream. They're right outside. I can hear their boots on the dirt, their voices low but close. One says, "Check it," and my world shrinks to a pinprick of terror. The door handle rattles, and Milo lunges, barking wildly. I grab him, hard in my throat, as the rattling stops. Silence. Then a laugh, cold, deliberate. It's not over. It's just beginning. The laugh outside the van cuts through me like a blade. I'm crouched in the driver's seat, keys shaking in my hand, Milo's barks echoing in the tiny space. The door handle's still, but I know they're out there, waiting. My mind's screaming to move, to get the hell out, but the engine's roar will give me away. The horror's suffocating, every second stretching into eternity. I glance at the rearview mirror, nothing but darkness. Then another thud hits the van, this time near the back. They're circling, testing me. I shove the knife into my pocket and make a call. I'm driving. Now, no matter what. I jam the key into the ignition, and the engine sputters to life, loud as a gunshot in the quiet rainforest. Milo's going nuts, clawing at the passenger seat. I slam the gas, and the van lurches forward, tires kicking up dirt. Headlights cut through the trees, and for a split second, I see them. Two figures, faces obscured, one raising a hand like he's signaling. My stomach twists, but I don't stop. The dirt road's narrow, branches scraping the van's sides, and I'm praying I don't hit a ditch. This is life or death, and I'm not dying in Hawaii. The van bounces hard, and I hear a metallic clang. Something's dragging under the chassis. That damn hook. I can't stop to check. My eyes dart to the side mirrors, catching movement. They're running after me, flashlights bobbing in the dark. It's terrifying, like a scene from a slasher flick, but this is real. I think of Casey, how she'd tell me to drive like hell. I do, pushing the van to its limit, the speedometer creeping past 40 on this shitty road. The rainforest blurs, a green-black tunnel closing in. A sharp curve looms ahead, and I almost lose control, the van skidding. Milo slides into the dashboard, yelping. Sorry, buddy. I gasp, yanking the wheel. The road straightens, but the flashlights are still behind me, fainter now. I'm gaining distance, but not enough. My phone's still useless, and Hilo's too far. I need a plan. There's a gas station I passed yesterday, maybe 10 miles out, near a small town. If I can get there, I'll find people, lights, safety. The thought keeps me focused, but the terror's relentless. Something slams into the back window, and glass cracks. I scream, swerving. A rock? A bullet? I don't know, but the van's still moving. I glance back. Milo's okay, cowering on the floor. The rear window's spiderwebbed, but holding. My heart's pounding so hard I can barely think. Whoever these guys are, they're not giving up. I flash to that Oahu story again. Missing couple, abandoned car. Is this what happened to them? The idea is so disturbing I nearly gag. I grip the wheel tighter, determined not to end up a headline. The road forks, and I hesitate. Left looks paved, maybe leading to civilization. Right's a dirt track, deeper into the forest. I choose left, tires screeching as I turn. The flashlights are gone now, but I'm not slowing down. The van's shaking, the dragging sound louder. I'm terrified it'll break down, leaving me stranded. I think of my mistake, parking in that sketchy spot, ignoring the no trespassing sign. I should have trusted my gut. Now I'm running for my life, and it's all on me. Streetlights flicker in the distance, a sign of hope. The gas station's close, I can make it. But then I hear it, an engine, low and growling, behind me. Headlights flare in my mirrors, blinding. They've got a vehicle, and it's gaining fast. My van's no match for whatever they're driving. I slam the accelerator, but the speedometer's maxed out. The horror's overwhelming, a vice around my chest. I'm not just escaping, I'm being hunted. The gas station's neon sign glows ahead, a beacon in the dark. I'm so close, but the other vehicle's right on my tail, bumper nearly kissing mine. I swerve, trying to shake them, but they stick like glue. Milo's whimpering, and I'm muttering apologies, promises to get us out. The station's lot is empty, but the lights are on. I skid into it, tires squealing, and lay on the horn. The chasing vehicle slows, then peels off, headlights vanishing into the night. My hands are shaking as I cut the engine, gasping for air. I'm safe for now. The attendant, a tired-looking guy, steps out, squinting at me. I'm about to explain, to beg for help, when I notice something in the van's side mirror. A figure, standing just beyond the lot, watching. My blood runs cold. I thought I'd escaped, but this nightmare's far from over. The attendant's staring at me, confused, as I stumble out of the van, Milo tucked under my arm. Call the cops. I yell, my voice raw. I point toward the figure in the shadows, but when I look again, it's gone. The horror's still pulsing through me, making my legs weak. The attendant, Kai, says he's calling 911, but his phone's slow, and he's muttering about bad service out here. I'm shaking, trying to explain. Men chasing me, a hook in my van, a cracked window. It sounds insane, but Kai nods, like he's heard worse. He lets me inside the station, locking the door behind us. I set Milo down, his tail low, and check my phone. Still no signal. Kai offers me water, but I can barely hold the bottle. My mind's replaying the chase, the headlights, that figure. Were they locals protecting their turf? Smugglers? Something worse? I think of the hook again, how it was lodged to trap me. My mistake was staying put last night, not driving off at the first sign of trouble. I'm kicking myself, but regret won't fix this. The terror is etched into me now, a scar I'll carry. Kai says the cops are on their way, but it'll take 20 minutes. They're coming from Hilo. I nod, trying to stay calm, but every noise outside makes me jump. The station's bright, with flickering fluorescence and shelves of chips, but it feels flimsy, like a paper fort. I keep glancing at the windows, expecting those men to burst in. Milo's sniffing the floor, uneasy. Kai tries to lighten the mood, joking about crazy island nights, but I can't laugh. The disturbing reality's sinking in. I'm not safe yet. I ask Kai if he's seen guys like that around. Dark clothes, duffel bags, creepy vibes. He hesitates, then says, maybe. Folks come through sometimes, keeping to themselves. Not my business. His vagueness bugs me, but I don't push. I'm too tired, too scared. I check the van through the window. It's beat up, the back window barely holding. I think of Casey, how I need to call her, tell her I'm alive. But the figure I saw outside haunts me. What if they're waiting for the cops to leave? The radio crackles, and Kai listens. Cops are delayed, some accident on the highway. My heart sinks. I can't stay here forever, but leaving feels like suicide. I pace, Milo trailing me, and notice a back door, slightly ajar. Kai, what's that? I ask, pointing. He frowns, says it's storage, should be locked. My pulse spikes. I grab my knife, creeping toward it. Kai follows, grabbing a tire iron. The horror's back, clawing at my throat. If someone's in there, I'm done. I nudge the door open, flashlight shaking in my hand. The storage room's dark, stacked with boxes, but there's a smell, metallic, wrong. I step inside, and my foot slips. I look down, blood pooling on the floor. My scream catches in my throat. There's a body, crumpled against the wall, eyes wide, throat slashed. It's not Kai. It's someone else, someone I don't know. Kai curses, backing away, but before I can move, the front door's bell jingles. Footsteps, heavy and deliberate. I spin, knife raised, but it's too late. Two men step into the station, the same ones from the rainforest. One's holding a machete, the other a gun. You shouldn't have stopped, the gunman says, voice calm. My heart's a drum, Milo's barking, and Kai's frozen. I think of my van, my life, all the miles I've driven to feel free. My deadly mistake was thinking I could outrun this. I lunge for the back door, dragging Milo, but the machete guy's faster, blocking me. The gunman raises his weapon, and I'm staring down the barrel, time slowing. I think of Seattle, my old apartment, my parents who begged me not to live this way. I think of Milo, who doesn't deserve this. The tragedy's here, and it's mine. I scream, please, but the shot rings out, deafening. Pain explodes in my chest, and I'm falling, Milo's howls fading. The last thing I see is the neon sign outside, flickering like a dying star. Darkness takes me, and the rainforest keeps its secrets. The tires of my van crunch on volcanic gravel as I pull into a turnout near Kahena Beach, a rugged stretch on Hawaii's Big Island. I'm Marcus Delgado, 32 years old, from Denver, Colorado. I've been living in my converted Ford Transit for 3 years, chasing waves and quiet corners. The sun's setting, casting a golden glow over the black sand below, and the air smells of salt and hibiscus. I found this spot on a Vanlife forum. Off the grid, no permits needed. It's just me tonight, no Milo or furry sidekick like some Vanlifers. My rig's my world, a bed, a propane stove, and surfboard strapped to the ceiling. I hop out, stretching my legs after the drive from Kona. The beach is a short hike down a cliff path, and I can hear the ocean roaring. It's peaceful, but there's a vibe I can't place. Maybe the way the palm trees lean, like they're whispering secrets. I shake it off and start my routine, level the van, check the battery, crack a beer. I've parked in sketchy spots before, Utah deserts, Oregon backroads, and never had trouble. Hawaii feels different, though wilder. The horror of being so far from home creeps in, but I push it down. I grab my binoculars to scope the beach. A few locals are drumming, their silhouettes dancing against the sunset. It's chill, almost inviting, but I'm not here to party. I like my solitude, my space. The van's got everything I need. Solar shower, a mini fridge, even a ukulele I'm terrible at playing. I strum a few off-key chords, laughing at myself. The forum said Gehenna's safe, but I notice a faded sign near the turnout. Private property. Weird. I figure it's old, ignored by vanlifers like me. Dinner's simple. Can chili heated on the stove. I eat outside, sitting on a camp chair, the stars popping out one by one. My phone's got 1 bar, enough to text my buddy Leo in Denver. He's jealous, says Hawaii's a dream. I tell him it's humid as hell, but the views are worth it. He warns me to watch for weirdos, half joking. I grin, but his words stick. Islands can feel like traps, cut off from the world. I brush it off and focus on the chili, spicy and warm. Back inside, I lock the van and draw the blackout curtains. My bed's cozy, piled with blankets from a thrift store in Boulder. I've got a fan to fight the humidity, and it hums softly as I journal. I write about Gehenna, how the beach feels alive, almost restless. It's a dumb thought, but it's honest. Vanlife's taught me to trust my gut, and something's nagging me tonight. I tell myself it's just the newness of the island, the way it breathes differently. I check the locks again, a habit from years on the road. My surfboard wax and a multi-tool sit on the counter, closest thing I've got to weapons. I'm not paranoid, but I'm not naive. Last year, a vanlifer in Arizona got robbed at knife point. Stories like that stick with you. I climb into bed, the fan's buzz lulling me. The ocean's roar is distant now, almost soothing. I'm halfway to sleep when I hear it. A low hum, not the waves. It's mechanical, like an engine idling nearby. I sit up, pulse quickening. The hum stops, and silence crashes in. I strain to listen, but there's nothing. Probably another vanlifer, I tell myself, or a local driving by. Gehenna's off the beaten path, but not that remote. Still, the hair on my neck's standing up. I grab the multi-tool, slipping it under my pillow. The van's locked, I'm fine. But the silence feels wrong, heavy, like it's hiding something scary. I lie back, eyes wide, staring at the ceiling. The hum doesn't return, but now every creak of the van, every rustle outside, feels amplified. I think about Leo's warning, the private property sign, the drumming on the beach. Maybe I'm just tired, wired from the drive. I force myself to breathe, counting the fan's rotations. Sleep's not coming easy tonight, and the horror's starting to settle in, quiet but persistent. By midnight, I'm still awake, the van feeling smaller, more exposed. Then I hear it again, the hum, closer this time, and a faint crunch of gravel. Someone's out there. My heart's in my throat, and the night's about to get a lot darker. The gravel crunch snaps me fully awake, my hand tightening on the multi-tool under my pillow. The van's dark, the fans hum barely covering the pounding in my chest. That engine sound, low, throaty, like a truck idling, feels too close, maybe 20 yards off. I slide out of bed, keeping low, and peek through a gap in the curtain. Headlights flicker through the palms, then cut out. My gut twists. This isn't a random camper. The horror of being out here, alone, hits hard. I'm parked on a cliffside turnout, ocean on one side, jungle on the other. No quick exit. I grab my phone, 1 bar, but it's useless for calling. I text Leo anyway, sketchy vibes at Gehenna. Might need to bounce. It doesn't send, but it's something. The van's my fortress, but tonight it feels like a cage. I think about the private property sign I ignored. Was that a mistake? I've read about locals in Hawaii getting pissed at vanlifers, especially on sacred land. But this feels scarier, more deliberate. I need to decide, stay put or check what's out there. I slip on my sneakers, keeping the lights off. The multi-tool's in my pocket, but it's laughable against real trouble. I think of a story Leo told me. Some vanlifer in Nevada got jumped by drifters, lost his rig and his savings. I can't let that happen. I check the locks, then rig a quick trap, a stack of empty cans by the side door. If anyone tries it, I'll hear. The ocean's roar masks smaller sounds, but I'm straining to catch anything. Voices, footsteps, that engine again. Nothing yet, but the air's thick, disturbing. I crouch by the driver's seat, debating starting the van. The engine's quiet enough, but headlights would scream, I'm here. The road out's a single lane, winding through jungle before hitting the highway to Pahoa, maybe 15 miles away. If someone's blocking it, I'm screwed. I curse myself for not scoping an escape route earlier. Rookie move, Marcus. I've been too cocky, surfing and chilling like I own the place. Now the horror's creeping in, slow and cold, like the tide. A faint clink outside makes me freeze. Not my cans, something else, like metal on rock. My heart's racing as I grab my binoculars, aiming them at the darkness. The moonlight catches a shape near the trailhead, low and moving. A person? An animal? I can't tell, but it's not right. I think of the drummers on the beach earlier. Were they watching me? I shake my head, trying to stay rational. But the shape moves again, closer, and now I'm sure it's human. Someone's out there, and they're not here to chat. I need a plan. Driving's risky, but staying feels worse. I check the van's systems. Battery's good. Gas is half full. I could make Pahoa if I floor it. But what if they've got a truck, like that engine I heard? I flash to a news story from Maui last year. A tourist rental car was found torched in a cane field. No trace of the driver. My mind's spinning, but I force it to focus. I slide into the driver's seat, keys in hand, ready to bolt. Then I hear it. A low whistle, sharp and intentional, from the jungle side. My blood runs cold. That's no animal. Whistles mean people, coordination. I think of the trap I set, the cans. If they try the door, I'll know. But what if they don't? What if they're waiting for me to make a move? I'm paralyzed, clutching the keys so hard they bite my palm. The scary thing is, I'm not even sure what I'm up against. Locals? Thieves? Something worse? I wish Leo were here. He's got a knack for talking his way out of trouble. Me? I'm just a surfer with a van and a bad feeling. I decide to wait till dawn, maybe 2 hours away. If I can hold out, I'll have light to see what's what. I move to the back, keeping low, and check my surfboard bag. There's a dive knife inside, sharper than the multi-tool. I strap it to my belt, feeling slightly less helpless. The van's quiet now, but that whistle replays in my head, haunting. I sit against the bed, eyes on the door, and tell myself I'm overreacting. But then the cans clatter, loud and sudden, and my world shrinks to a pinpoint of terror. Someone's at the door. The handle doesn't move, but I hear breathing, slow, deliberate, right outside. The horror's real now, and I'm not ready for what's coming. The breathing outside my van's door stops, but my heart's still jackhammering. The cans I stacked are scattered, glinting in the moonlight through a curtain gap. Someone's right there, inches away, and the horror of it freezes me. I'm crouched by the bed, dive knife in one hand, multi-tool in the other, feeling like a cornered animal. The jungle's silent now, no whistles, no engine hum, just this suffocating quiet. I want to believe it's a prank, some local messing with me, but my gut screams otherwise. Kahena's not chill anymore. It's a trap, and I'm the bait. I inch toward the side window, barely breathing, and peek out. A shadow shifts near the trailhead, tall and deliberate, holding something long. A stick? A machete? My stomach lurches. This isn't a hiker or a drunk from the beach drum circle. The figure's joined by another, shorter, moving fast. They're coordinating, like wolves circling prey. The terror's real now, clawing at my chest. I think of that Maui news story again. Torched car, missing driver. Is this how it starts? I grip the knife tighter, wishing I'd stayed in Denver. The shorter figure crouches, inspecting the ground near my tires. My mind flashes to the van's undercarriage. Did they tamper with it? I've heard of thieves disabling rigs to trap vanlifers. Last month, a guy on a forum said his brake lines were cut in New Mexico. I can't check now, not with them out there. The tall one moves closer, and I catch a glint, definitely a blade. My blood runs cold. They're not here to rob me. This feels personal, disturbing, like I've stumbled into something I wasn't meant to see. I slide to the driver's seat, keys shaking in my hand. Starting the van's a risk, but staying's worse. The figures are maybe 30 feet away, close enough to hear the engine. I think about Leo, how he'd probably talk his way out of this with some dumb joke. Me? I'm no hero. I'm just a guy with a surfboard and a bad decision to park here. The private property sign replays in my mind. My first mistake. Was this their land? Their deal? Drugs? Smuggling? The horrors in the unknown, and it's eating me alive. A soft tap hits the van's back door, then another, like someone's testing it. My pulse spikes, and I nearly drop the keys. They're probing, looking for a way in. I check my trap. Cans are down, but the lock's holding. For now, I whisper to myself, stay calm, Marcus, but it's useless. The tall figure's at the side door now, his shadow looming through the curtain. I can't see his face, but I hear him, a low mutter, words I can't make out. The other one replies, sharper, and my skin crawls. They're planning something, and I'm the target. I need to move, but my phone's still got no signal. Pahoa's my best shot, but the road's a choke point. If they've got a truck, like that engine I heard, I'm screwed. I think of the beach drummers. Were they part of this? A lookout. The idea is paranoid, but nothing feels safe anymore. I crawl to the back, checking the rear window. It's tinted, hard to see through, but I spot movement. 3 figures now. A third's joined them, carrying a bag. The scary reality hits. This isn't random. It's organized. The tapping stops, replaced by a scraping sound, metal on metal, along the van's side. My heart's in my throat. They're trying to cut in. I flash to a movie I saw, some slasher flick where the victim's trapped in a car. This is worse, because it's real. I grab a flashlight, aiming it at the floor to avoid detection, and check my dive knife. It's sharp, but against 3 people? I'm outmatched. The scraping gets louder, and the van shakes slightly, like someone's leaning on it. The terror's overwhelming, a physical weight. I'm about to start the engine when I hear a voice, clear, close, right outside the side door. Come out, Haole. It says, low and mocking. My blood freezes. Haole's a slur here, tossed at outsiders like me. They know I'm not local, know I'm alone. The horror sinks deeper, a knife in my gut. I think of my van, my home, all the miles I've driven to feel free. Now it's a coffin, and I'm trapped inside. The voice laughs, and the scraping stops. Silence again, but it's worse than the noise. They're waiting. I can feel it. The van's too quiet, the jungle too still. I'm gripping the keys, ready to floor it, but something tells me they want me to run. It's a game, and I'm not winning. The figures are out there, shadows in the dark, and I know one thing for sure. I've seen something I shouldn't have, and they're not letting me leave. The voice outside my van, come out, Haole, still rings in my ears as I grip the keys, sweat dripping down my neck. The shadows of 3 figures loom, one scraping my van's side, another by the door. My heart's pounding so hard I can barely think. Staying here's a death sentence, so I make the call. I'm driving. I jam the key into the ignition, and the engine roars, shattering the jungle's silence. Headlights flood the turnout, catching the tall figure's eyes, cold, unblinking. The horror's electric, pushing me to slam the gas. The van lurches forward, tires spinning on gravel. Branches whip the windshield as I tear down the narrow road, the ocean crashing to my left. The figures scatter, but I hear shouts, then an engine revving behind me. My rearview mirror shows headlights, bright, closing fast. They've got a truck, just like I feared. This is life or death, no question. I think of Leo, how he'd say, floor it, dude. I do, pushing the van to 50 on this winding death trap. The road to Pahoa's my only shot, but it's miles of jungle first, and I'm no match for their speed. A loud bang rocks the van, and I swerve, nearly hitting a tree. Something hit the back, maybe a rock, maybe worse. The rear window holds, but my pulse is screaming. I glance at the dive knife on my belt, useless if they've got guns. My mind flashes to that Maui story, torched car, missing driver. Is this their game? The terror is choking me, but I keep driving, the van rattling like it's gonna fall apart. I made a mistake parking at Kahena, ignoring that private property sign. Now I'm paying for it, big time. The road curves sharply, and I almost lose control, tires skidding. The truck's right on my tail, its grill filling my mirrors. I can't see their faces, but I feel their intent, dark, relentless. I think of my van, my home, all the surf trips I planned. It's slipping away, and the horror's crushing. There's a turnout ahead, maybe a chance to lose them. I yank the wheel, veering onto a dirt path, branches snapping. The truck follows, but it's slower in the tight space. I've got a shot, but it's slim. The path narrows, jungle closing in. My headlights catch something, a chain across the road, glinting. I slam the brakes, the van skidding to a stop inches from it. My chest heaves, panic spiking. The truck's headlights flare behind me, trapping me. I'm screwed. I grab the dive knife, ready to run, but the jungle's no safer than the van. The scary reality hits. They planned this, knew I'd take this path. I think of the bag the third guy carried, tools, weapons. My mind's racing, but there's no time. I cut the engine, killing the lights to buy seconds. The truck idles, doors slamming. Footsteps crunch closer, and low voices argue. Something about finishing it. My blood's ice. I crawl to the back, shoving my camp stove against the door. It's pathetic, but it's all I've got. The ocean's roar is loud here, masking some noise, but not enough. I check my phone. No signal, as always. Leo's probably asleep in Denver, clueless I'm fighting for my life. The terror is a living thing, clawing inside me. A fist pounds the side door, and I stifle a yell. "We know you're in there." A voice growls, different from before, gruffer, angrier. The handle rattles, and the stove shifts. They're coming in. I lunge for the driver's seat, ready to ram the chain, but a shadow moves outside the windshield. The third figure's there, holding a crowbar, tapping the glass. My heart stops. This isn't just a chase, it's a hunt. The disturbing truth lands. I've seen their operation, whatever it is, and they can't let me go. I'm about to floor it when headlights flash in the distance. Another vehicle, coming from Pahoa's direction. Hope surges, but it's fleeting. The figures freeze, then bolt for their truck, peeling out in a spray of dirt. The chain's still up, so I'm stuck, but the new headlights are closer, slowing. It's a Jeep, beat up, with a local sticker. I wave frantically, praying it's help. The driver steps out, a woman, maybe 40, with a flashlight. "You okay?" she calls, voice wary. I'm shaking, barely coherent, as I spill everything. She listens, eyes narrowing, and says she's called the cops, but they're 20 minutes out. Her name's Lonnie, and she knows Gehenna's bad news. Rumors of smugglers using the cliffs. I'm safe for now, but as I climb out to thank her, I notice something in the van's shadow. A small, carved idol, wooden and crude, placed under my tire. It wasn't there before. My stomach drops. This isn't over. Lonnie's flashlight sweeps the idol, her face tightening. "You shouldn't be here," she mutters, kicking it into the bushes. I'm leaning against my van, legs like jelly, trying to process the chase, the crowbar, the voices. The horror's still pulsing, every jungle rustle making me jump. Lonnie says the idol's a marker, maybe tied to the smugglers, drugs, guns, who knows. She's seen them around Gehenna, never reported it. "Cops don't care," she shrugs. I'm pissed, but too shaken to argue. My mistake was camping here, thinking I was untouchable. Now I'm marked. I check the van, scratches along the side, a dent from the rock they threw. The rear window's cracked, but holding. Lonnie offers to lead me to Pahoa, says her cousin's a cop there. I nod, grateful, but the idol's image burns in my mind, eyes carved deep, like it's watching. The terror's not gone, just waiting. I climb into the van, hands trembling, and start the engine. Lonnie's Jeep pulls ahead, and I follow, the chain long gone, probably cut by the smugglers. The road's empty, but I feel exposed, like eyes are on me. In Pahoa, we pull into a 24-hour diner, neon buzzing. Lonnie's cousin, Koa, meets us, badge glinting. I spill everything, whistles, crowbar, idol. He takes notes, but his face says he's heard it before. Gehenna's a hot spot, he admits. Hard to catch him. I'm furious. Why is this place even open to campers? My phone's got signal now, and I text Leo. Almost died. Call me. He's probably out cold, but I need someone to know. The horror's left a stain, and I'm not sure I'll ever shake it. Koa says they'll patrol Gehenna, but I'm not holding my breath. Lonnie offers me a couch at her place, but I just want to leave. Hawaii, Vanlife, all of it. I thank her, buy her coffee, and head back to the van. It's 4 a.m., and the diner's lot is quiet, just a few truckers inside. I check the locks, climb into bed, and try to breathe. The idol's gone, but its weight lingers, disturbing and heavy. I tell myself I'm safe, but sleep won't come. The jungle's out there, and so are they. I decide to drive to Hilo at dawn, catch a ferry, get off this island. I'm done with Gehenna, done with risks. I check the van again, paranoid, and notice a new scratch near the wheel well, fresh, deliberate. My heart skips. Did they follow me? I scan the lot, nothing but shadows. Koa's still inside, but I'm not waiting. I start the engine, ready to bolt, when I hear it. A faint tap on the back door, like a finger testing. My blood freezes. I thought I'd escaped, but I was wrong. I floor it, the van screeching out of the lot. Headlights flare in my mirrors. Another truck, same as before. My pulse is deafening, the road blurring. Hilo's 30 miles, and I'm pushing 70, weaving through pre-dawn traffic. The truck's gaining, and I'm cursing my life, my choices. I think of Denver, my old job, the safety I ditched for this. My deadly mistake was thinking I could outrun trouble. The horror's back, Sharper now, and it's not letting go. A curve looms, and I take it too fast, tires screaming. The van tilts, and for a second, I think I'll roll. I correct, barely, but the truck's closer, bumper grazing mine. I see a gas station ahead, lights blazing, and swerve into it, horn blaring. The truck peels off, vanishing into the dark. I'm gasping, tears stinging, as a clerk runs out. Call 911. I yell, but my voice cracks. I stumble out, checking the van, and see it. The idol, wedged under my wiper, same carved eyes. The clerk's on the phone, but I'm not waiting for cops. I grab the idol, hurl it into the jungle, and climb back in. I'm driving to Hilo, then the mainland, and never looking back. But as I hit the highway, a figure steps into the road, crowbar raised. It's the tall one, face clear now, scarred, grinning. I swerve, but the van clips something, spinning. The world flips, glass shatters, and pain explodes. My last thought is of the idol's eyes, watching as the darkness swallows me. The jungle claims another secret, and my van lies broken, a tomb for my dreams.